Welcome to the Zadzooks Happy Hour, a podcast providing commentary on the latest in film, TV, games, and comics. My name is Todd Stoll, and I'm joined by 25-year veteran reporter covering pop culture, video games, and technology for the Washington Times, Joseph Zadkowski. Hello, how are you today?
Wow. Getting ready for the Super Bowl. You excited?
Who you picking?
I just went off topic again.
Who you picking?
Well, everyone hates the Patriots, so I'm going to go with the Falcons.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, well, then I'm going to go with the Patriots.
I'm going to go with the Bears.
I think it's going to be a close game. I'm hoping it's a close game.
I don't care who wins. I hope it's a close game.
But
of course, by the time this gets up, the game will already be over. So I've just wasted 2 minutes of our time.
I'm picking Patriots.
Are you really?
By 4.
And it's not like you're not a Patriots fan.
I'm not.
You are a Patriots fan.
I am not a Patriots fan.
You're a Dallas Cowboys fan.
That is correct.
They had a good year.
They did.
I love that quarterback.
I think it's going to be 31-27 for whatever reason. And it's going to be...
That'd be great.
Yeah, I'm hoping. Or it's going to be a blowout.
Thanks for joining us on the ESPN live broadcast. Now back to the show.
All right, so we're going to talk Jack Reacher.
Never go back.
Which I may never go back after this movie.
Okay, it wasn't that bad.
Compared to the first one, it was not great.
It was different.
Yeah.
It was a little more family themed.
Which is not the point.
It was PG-13. Was the first one PG-13? If I remember, there's a lot more violence.
There's a lot more violence in the first one, and he's by himself. In this one, he's not by himself. He has multiple cohorts with him.
Right.
He has...
Somebody from the Avengers. And a possible daughter that annoyed you to no end.
Even
though it was in the book.
I know.
So you really can't take that element out of the movie.
No, you can't. I can take the actress out of the movie and say that role was not filled correctly. It fell very flat for me.
Right.
I didn't mind the action sequences to a certain extent, but where this fell into the typical cliche Hollywood action movie was using the quote-unquote daughter as collateral.
Right.
And using it against Jack Reacher.
And having a crazed assassin.
Right.
Again, how many times have we seen that in the movie?
And that's where, for me, it was just, one of these things where, eye roll. The first one was different. There was something unique about it, and it made it fun. And it was this guy that just didn't quit and was very good at what he was doing. And
I think Cruise needs to stick to Mission Impossible. Ethan Hunt's a much better character for him.
It is, and those movies are great.
Yeah.
So it wasn't my favorite movie, certainly of his. It was not as good as the original. And I'm going to segue off ever so slightly. They're gonna boomerang this and come right back. I'm hoping John Wick Chapter 2 is not like Jack Reacher 2, and that it's not great.
I'm
hoping
starring Tom Cruise.
Well, I'm just hoping that another sequel doesn't suffer the same fate, because Jack Reacher had so much potential. John Wick was a great movie. Let's not see it.
Yeah, I didn't know in the latest Wick that Larry Fishburne is from The Matrix. Those two get back together.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Where's the other 3 Matrix that they were supposed to be coming out with?
Let's not.
That's what they keep saying.
Let's forget all about that.
They keep saying...
After the first movie, it was death.
They keep saying 3 more.
I couldn't have been more frustrated in my life than after watching the first Matrix coming back for the second and third one. That was such a promising franchise.
Oh, that first movie is just...
It's gold.
Legendary.
So anyway, I watched Jack Reacher in 4K, and it didn't make a difference. Other than the fact that Tom looked much older. The man he's starting to show his age a little bit.
Yep.
He was so Dorian Gray for so long, and it's okay. He's an older guy, but I'm telling you what, man, nice close quarters combat fight scene at the end.
Yeah.
Okay? I liked it. Extras, did you watch the extras?
A little bit.
73 minutes?
No, I did not watch all 73 minutes.
You didn't watch all 73 minutes of the extras?
I did not.
The only thing I really cared about, they actually focused on the still photographer, which I thought was kind of neat. I don't see those segments very often. Cruise was kissing his butt, and the guy takes still photographs to get people excited about the movie.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah, and I think you're seeing that a lot more, especially as these photos are released on social media. Chris Pratt is doing that with Guardians 2.
And Ron Howard
Yep.
did it on the next film we're going to talk about.
Yep, Inferno.
If you want to talk about it in a minute or wait, it's up to you since you're the producer of the show.
Oh,
And we know how much
listen,
fun you've had.
we just go with the flow on this thing.
There's a lot of flow.
Yep.
Last week there was some backup.
It's okay. Sometimes
You tell me. You want to stop for a second and come right back?
No, I think it's looking good. We can just
Okay.
keep going right
Wow,
ahead.
man.
Those are music.
You have really got this under control
that
now.
is music to your ears.
Yes, it is.
So we're going to talk also about Inferno on Blu-ray and 4K.
Yep.
This is the third Dan Brown,
Ron Howard directed.
Tom Hanks starred
Yep.
a movie along the lines of Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons, and now you have Inferno.
Mm-hmm.
And Inferno, the high premise of the film is that there is a bioweapon, which unless Hanks's character can find it,
Treasure hunt. Another treasure
yes,
hunt.
the national. He and Nicolas Cage are neck and neck with hunting
Symbol.
treasure. Unless they can find it, it will be released and it will wipe out a good chunk of the population of the world in a short period of time. It's a little different than some of the other films. The previous film, Angels and Demons, what was interesting about that was that they were leveraging the God particle from the CERN, the underground proton accelerator that they have in
Really?
Switzerland.
That's fascinating.
Thank
That's
you.
interesting.
Well, but they're using it to say it could be used as a nuke.
Okay.
So these two movies, the last two movies, are very kind of similar in the sense that they're weaponry of some kind.
His companion is a doctor who he meets in an emergency room
And
after he's had an apparent concussion.
And she's from a galaxy far, far away, too.
Yes, she is. Felicity Jones. And I got to say, the talent of those two completely wasted on screen.
Yeah.
They could have put anybody into those roles.
Having not read the book,
Right.
I can only say that it was the way it was presented on film was extraordinarily predictable. I knew the plot line less than half of the way through the
And
film.
it was so it was so frenetic that it was just, okay, we got to go here. Okay, now we got to get here.
Yeah, it was
let's go.
It was a lot of leveraging his head injury and making him question everything, and the way that was presented on film was almost a Tourette style.
Right, and the cut-ins to the visions of hell.
Yeah, it was just.
Was that really even necessary? If that
was-
wasn't even there, would anybody have noticed?
I'm not sure.
Right?
I mean, it's a Tom Hanks movie. Tom Hanks always delivers. There's no
Right.
question. I wouldn't say it's a bad movie. I would say of the three movies in the trilogy, it's probably the worst.
Right.
But it's Ron Howard directed, and it's Tom Hanks starring, and you've got to take that with some level of gravitas to it, and say it's a movie you can sit down and watch and form your own opinions. It's Sony, and I have a problem with what Sony does on their DVDs, which is they force you through a bunch of previews that you cannot skip past until you get to a certain point where you can finally hit main menu and skip through the movie. And I hate that about what they do with their DVDs.
Right.
So that's frustrating. If you want to get to the movie and you want to watch it, you've got to waste another 5 minutes just jumping through to get to the actual film. Once you're there, it's fine. The special features on this one, which I think you probably have watched all of them. I, again, watched some of them just to kind of get a flavor for it. Seem to be okay.
They're okay, but they're way too promotional. There's nothing. The best part of the features, there's 27 minutes of deleted and extended scenes, two of which there's a longer opening and there's an alternate ending. And the alternate ending I actually preferred.
Oh, so I didn't see that part.
Because in the movie, there is a love interest
right.
to Langdon. And that's played out. Never mind. I promised myself I don't want to review a movie and give away the entire movie, so you'll see it.
Yes, there's a love interest in the movie, and it's left somewhat strangely.
It's more of a vivisection rather than a decapitation.
Yeah.
Now, if you're watching in 4K, it's a beautiful travelogue through Venice, Florence, and Istanbul. That's what's exciting. The more exciting part of it is the Dolby Atmos soundtrack, which makes you feel like you have a concussion. They make things happen louder and weirder at certain points, so that like when the doctor rips open a package of bandages, it's really loud.
The piercing sounds that they had, where you're supposedly
motorcycle roar,
hearing the like ringing in his ears, was annoying. Just in like wearing Dolby headphones.
Imagine it in 14 speakers. Yeah. So that was pretty interesting. I like what they did. And Ron Howard does. We had mentioned it before. He is now obsessed with Twitter and Instagram and the visuals involved in that. And he spreads a lot of images out before the film to say where he's at and what he's doing. And there's a little bit of a featurette on that. Yeah, which is kind of interesting.
And I think that's one of the things that sometimes makes a film hit and miss, because if you're giving away too much in advance of the film about what you're doing, I wonder if that's somewhat of a turnoff, and why box office either does well or doesn't do well.
But it didn't do that well.
It did not do that well. But then again, it understandably didn't do that well. It also was a weird time when it came out too, if I recall. It was
I don't know if I mentioned that.
I remember seeing it. The title, the problem is that there's not like, again, we go back to Mission Impossible, right? It's Mission Impossible : something.
Right.
And in this case, you had the Da Vinci Code, and then you go to Angels and Demons, and it's not like it's Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code, Dan Brown's.
Right.
Like there's nothing that ties these movies together, and I think that hurts a franchise when you don't have that commonality, because if I just look up and I see Inferno,
who would know?
I think that's either some sort of horror movie.
Right.
I mean, it's just it's a
that's
title.
An immediate horror
movie.
Right?
Exactly. So that probably also hurts a little bit, but
so basically two high impact movie stars in really mediocre movies.
Yeah, and we hate to be the bearer of bad news. We don't want to seem like we're downers on these things, but they just weren't. They weren't up to.
There's so much better.
There's just so much stuff to look at that this is not. This
you got to make a choice.
You got to make a choice.
You got a weekend,
and you look at it and you watch it, and you're like, that's kind of disappointing.
Why'd I do that? I'm glad I didn't sit in a theater and do it.
Yeah, exactly. So okay, when we come back, you're going to talk Resident Evil
7. The video game.
The video game.
That's right. I actually look at video games.
Not the movie.
No.
And, we're also going to quickly touch upon a sneak preview of Stranger Things.
Sure, why not?
Season 2. So we'll be back.
All right, okay.
Communities Digital News, built by the writers and editors that deliver the news 24 hours a day. Visit comdiginews.com. That's COMMDIGI news.com. And support the next evolution in news.
Go ahead and touch on it if you want to.
It's too late.
It's too late.
You already sucked the emotion. I mean, that was interesting. You were talking about your days as a Toys R Us employee.
That's right.
I don't think anyone knew about that.
I mean, you could look it up.
Far more interesting than me raking nails when I was in high school.
Well, no, I sold video games.
But wow.
I sold video.
But yet you didn't play them.
No, I did.
You took them home. You got some.
No, they actually let us set the devices up in the back office.
Yeah.
So you could play some of the new games and be able to use that as like selling points.
So you could intelligently talk about them.
Yes, you could So the best game that we ever had as a demo, and I want to say, I don't think it was GameCube.
Wow.
It was whatever was after the GameCube. It wasn't the 64, and it wasn't Xbox. What was before the 360? Was it just called Xbox?
Yes.
I don't remember what it was. No, this would have been Nintendo. But Mario Tennis was the most fun.
The Wii?
It wasn't Wii. It was before the Wii. I think it might have been the GameCube. I'm not sure.
I remember the GameCube.
But I used to work overnights for a while, restocking.
Right.
And we would play like an hour and a half of Mario Tennis. And it was the most fun game ever. It's between that and for Nintendo, GoldenEye.
Uh-huh.
For
That
the
was hot. I
64.
remember that.
That game was off the hook.
Right.
So definitely sold like the original PlayStation 1s, the original Final Fantasies for PlayStation.
Did you buy any of this for yourself?
Didn't need to.
Wow.
Didn't need to.
Really?
Oh, no, you could play as much as you wanted whenever you wanted, and they encouraged it. And we're about to talk about it, but I sold the first iteration of Resident Evil.
Right.
And many of their subsequent...
Then you'll be happy to know that they've returned to that kind of a claustrophobic action level.
Yep.
Resident Evil, the last couple have been kind of derailed by blockbuster Call of Duty kind of action, which was really just disappointing. I mean, for as much fun as it is blasting zombies' heads off and stuff, there was really no build up, dread,
But the first one was so dark, too. I mean, half the time you're like roaming around with a flashlight.
That's right. Well, this is the same thing.
Awesome.
But this is cool.
Yeah. Well,
okay?
of course. It's
because
also
number
way
one,
better graphics.
The graphics are off the charts.
Think about that. Think about a PlayStation original to a PS4 with
ultra high def, HDR, anything you can put in there. Yeah.
I mean,
this game is terrifying. Okay?
Great.
It's terrifying because it's so lifelike, and it's terrifying because they send you into a mansion and meet a family that you might find in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know who I'm talking about? That kind of family? Grandma's in a...
Now, the question is do they play dueling banjos at any point?
They don't. But if you remember Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and if you remember...
It's terrifying. Families like that are, and you know they exist. They exist in this country today.
That's right. I've met many of them in West Virginia. They're called the Baker family here, and you're sent on a mission as a unassuming dude named Ethan to find his wife, and you enter this mansion. And you start walking around and looking, and things go really bad really fast. And here's the key to the entire game. It's no longer over your shoulder third person. It's first person.
Awesome.
So you're walking through the corridors, and you're walking through. The sound is as terrifying as some of the visuals. Lot of nail biting and jump scares. And if you can imagine a jump scare with a really good sound system and you're in the dark playing this game, you can see where I'm at with it, where I'm still chattering a bit. It's about a 12-hour movie, basically. You're paying a 12 to 14-hour movie. For the most part, it's very nostalgic to Resident Evil. There are scenes where there's a level of firefights, but there are a lot of surprises happening, and I hate giving away anything other than if you want to ask me questions, I'll try and talk around them. But think of the Evil Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Devil's Rejects, Blair Witch Project, and even Saw. These all kind of squeezed into the narrative here.
You know what's interesting is that one other video game did it recently with the really creepy family. It was the Telltale Games, The Walking Dead, with the girl who is the sort of... You know, you're playing this guy who's trying to protect the girl, and do you remember when they go to the cannibals?
Yeah.
They go to that farmhouse, and it's very creepy, and things are coming at you, and you don't know what to do. Sounds very similar to that.
Very similar. So the only problem I had with the plot was if you're going to... So at the beginning of the game, you're walking through this insect-filled swamp. Then you see this old creepy mansion. And then you see it's all boarded up and there's barbed wire fencing and gates. So you walk around the outside of the perimeter. There's a hole in the barbed wire fence, and there's the bloody carcass of a horse hanging over the barbed wire. How many people would ever, in their right mind, walk into the barbed wire and into the actual house and not just pull a Don Knotts and turn around and start screaming and run away and call every law authority figure you could think of?
That's a pretty big plot flaw.
But right. So you have to justify it as, well, I'm going to save my wife. A wife who's already told him, don't come. there's something bad going on. Don't show up.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, that's the plot of a lot of movies too, right? If you look at it from the
see,
from the
that's
30,000
the thing, right?
foot,
There's a stupid
and you're
level,
like,
right?
okay, well, if this didn't happen, there's no movie.
That's right.
And
so,
you could have just not done that, and that would have been the end of it.
I am doing a terrible job of describing this because I don't want to really give anything away. The mansion's in Louisiana. It's a plantation.
Okay.
It's decrepit.
That's awesome.
Anything you could think of in a mansion that's really old, like peeling paint, rusted doorknobs, and opening a door is unbelievable. The creak is there,
That's awesome.
and you never know what's going to go on behind that door.
So one of the questions is with a game like this where there's so much information. I mean, obviously now you download a good chunk of it on the device ahead of time. How was the transition between scenes? Did you have to wait a while for it to load?
Yeah, you had to wait. Where you had to wait was when you came back to the game to continue it. There was a relatively long wait for the load to happen.
Okay.
After that, it was fairly seamless.
Okay. Because
So that was really cool.
That does seem to be now with, especially as, like, if you think about it, how many different audio files are they having to use in each scene and imagery, and then of course the 3D
and
rendering.
possibilities where you're
Exactly.
going, right?
And it seems like as they're adding more to that, these games are taking longer to load between segments. Now, granted, there's some auto-saving that's happening depending on what you do, and I get that in the background, but that does seem to be a problem with games that are very highly detailed that do have a lot of sort of open-ended possibilities.
And you don't want that to happen in a horror game.
No.
Because that kind of ruins the entire atmosphere, right?
Definitely.
And I'll tell you, there's another part in the game where you find videotapes, and I don't think this is giving anything away at this point because everybody already knows. You pop the videotape into a very old VHS player, and you become part of the characters in the videotape, and you play through a scene that way.
That's cool.
That is awesome because it gives you a lot of background information, and the entire narrative does tie in to the Resident Evil canon at some point.
So are you spending the bulk of your time in the mansion?
You are in the mansion and its surroundings.
Okay.
So there's a boathouse, there's some areas outside the mansion, which, by the way, are as creepy. There's a trailer. Of course there's a trailer.
Are there like sharp things hanging from the ceiling anywhere? That's very zombie-esque. To walk into a shed where you've got pitchforks.
I see what you're talking about. There's a garage that things don't go well in.
Okay.
Where there's
sounds like things just don't go well in
things
general.
Don't. No, there's a character called Immortal Jack, and he's a troublemaker throughout.
Oh, that's fun.
There's a lot of. I'm just telling you, go watch the Texas Chainsaw Man, meet that family, and then you'll really appreciate this game even more.
All right. So overall,
10.
Okay.
And the thing about it is, I had my kid work through it with me a little bit. He was equally 17-year-old terrified. He couldn't believe it. Not only that, but he's now had 3 of his friends play the game, the opening 10 minutes, and just loved watching them poop their pants during it. So, I mean, this game
So what's the rating?
is
M?
great. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, for sure, this is easily, and it's only February, one of the best games of the year.
Man,
I can't give you
so,
any
So you
more.
think when E3 comes up, that's going to be it for the year?
It's a really. I don't think it's going to end up being the best game,
but it's
I've
probably
enjoyed
top
it.
5.
And they've already released downloadable content.
Oh, that's awesome.
They've already put more of that kind of that videotape play in action because that's the way to go. They can allow you to take these scenes and introduce new characters because it's videotape scenes from past encounters.
So now that you've completed it, where can you go with it? Is there a reason to come back to it even for the downloadable content?
You come back for the downloadable content.
Okay.
You can also play it again in a super hard difficulty where it's like you get no health and you get no help.
Oh.
But I wouldn't do that in a million years.
That's for professional competitions.
Yeah, you got to really be into it.
You've got to know that game inside and out.
It's a great conquerable game for the average gamer who will really love this game if you're a horror fan.
Awesome. Cool.
Thank you.
Wow. That was maybe one of the best.
Capcom paid me nothing.
That may have been one of the best video game reviews I think you've ever done.
Right. Maybe the only one.
No, you've done a few others. I'm going to quickly touch on one thing before we close this bad boy out, and that is tomorrow during the Super Bowl. Netflix is going to air the
What?
trailer for Stranger Things Season 2
When is season 2?
soon. I think it's like May or June. So soonish.
Good.
Which I think I told you before, wait until just before it comes out
And
then binge it.
Got it.
So you're up to date. The only reason I state this, and I do like it a lot, is they released their first promo image, and 3 of the 4 boys are dressed up as Ghostbusters, and
You gotta love that.
It takes place a year later in 1984, and immediately I'm like, oh, bridge both worlds, super excited.
Right.
Found out because Ghost Corps, the new entity from Columbia/Sony, they sent Cats out of the bag, and apparently they licensed the full likeness of the uniforms to Stranger Things.
Really?
So it's like finally
What does that mean?
probably the No Ghost logo
Okay.
would be my guess, so that they could use it. But very cool. Can't wait to see what they do with that. Looks like it's obviously Halloween, so that could be pretty awesome. And I think that's going to be a show that if it continues to go and it continues to age well, it's going to be another big success for them. Also, just to point out, coming very soon is Better Call Saul Season 3.
That's right.
Which I think is going to be awesome as well.
Yep.
And
Mikey.
Walking Dead comes
Come
back
back in a week.
after the
Do you
Super
think
Bowl.
they're going to finally give us 6 more episodes of Negan, or are they going to carry this into another season? How much Negan?
Well, I mean, if you've read the comics, eventually
yeah.
Negan ends up in the jail that Morgan built.
But how long is it going to take?
I got to imagine he's in another season. I think he said he was
Right.
when he's done interviews, that he's in one more.
So we're going to just waste six
I think
episodes
it's going
here,
to be a big war,
and the war will start at the end of this season.
or there's going to be a build up to it, and then
Right.
it's going to start to unleash, and there's going to be setbacks on both sides, and then there's going to be the sort of big boss battle between the two of them.
Right.
So, a lot to look forward to. It's going to be
As
amazing.
always.
There's going to be amazing commercials and new product announcements coming out of the Super Bowl, which anything video or game related.
I saw a lot of Gronkowski for some reason.
Well, you know why? Because he didn't play this year. 'Cause
That's right,
He
so he's
injured
got a lot of
himself.
time.
He had a lot of time.
Hey, and by the way, one of your favorite Ghostbusters, Kate McKinnon, is in this movie called Masterminds.
Yes.
That I just saw on
Yeah.
Blu-ray.
And
It's a terrible movie.
it's really horrible.
But you know what? She's really funny.
And again,
and they let her go. You know what I mean?
Not to knock it, but Kristen Wiig is in that one too.
And Leslie Jones. There's
Jones.
3 Ghostbusters in that movie.
And it's not great. It was a horrible premise to even when I saw the trailer, I was like, this is gonna suck.
Yeah, but wait a minute. It's a true story.
I
mean,
know.
I don't want to go into a review on this right now
No, I know.
because I want you to see it.
No, I know.
Have you seen it?
No.
But it's a true story.
I know.
And one of the featurettes, they interview the guy, the robber.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable because Zach Gagagagagagagagadis portrayal of this guy is an imbecile.
Yeah.
Like moron imbecile.
Well, I mean, look at Pain and Gain, how they did that one.
Yeah.
And that one. They actually are very similar in how they went back and sort of recreated it.
But Kate McKinnon, it's kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, I think she's got a big career. She could be the female Bill Murray.
But Kristen Wiig is once again not really over the top. And I think she needs to be in a movie at some point where she's over the top because she is really funny.
I actually think she was great in The Skeleton Twins with Bill Hader.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
That was a drama / dramedy. She was great in that, playing a serious role. She's pulling the shift away from comedy a little bit, and I'd like to see more of that.
All right, so that was totally off topic.
Hey,
I didn't mean to do that.
No, that's fine.
Next week, we're going to review something. What's that film? Not Avatar.
Arrival?
Could be Arrival. I knew there was an A in it. Or maybe we'll do Avatar again. That was a good movie.
Yeah. Are they ever coming out with a sequel to
It's
that?
supposed to be like they're shooting 6 at one time right now, aren't they? But it's going to be in 4D. You're going to sit in the theater.
I'm just counting down to Logan, and I'm going to the theaters to see that.
Okay,
we're going. We're going, and then
we go to one movie a year in a theater.
We will review that because
Absolutely.
it's R-rated
It's
and it
gotta
better
be
be
great.
good. It has to be good. So, on that note, I am Todd Stoll.
Hey, man, I'm still Joe Zadkowski. This
And
was exciting.
Thanks for joining. And guess what?
We got through a whole show.
The whole show is in the can,
Yeah.
not parts of it.
That's
the audio worked out well this time.
You're so good.
Thanks, man.